I first pursued work as a 911 call taker out of necessity. My previous nursing jobs offered little pay, barely enough for my son and me to survive. I was 23 years old, living in Columbus, Georgia, and juggling long hours with an endless barrage of responsibilities. My life felt like a suffocating cage, allowing little time for leisure or socializing. When the opportunity arose to join the Columbus Police Department's dispatch unit, it promised better pay, benefits, and a chance at a more stable future. Before starting on the official 911 floor, however, I had to complete an 8-week training program. The class took place in a bleak windowless basement of the police station. Every morning at 8, 5 of us gathered in a cramped room filled with outdated equipment, CPR mannequins, and musty textbooks. Our instructor had decades of experience on the lines, and her assistant seemed eager to follow in her footsteps. The two of them divided their time between teaching protocols, drilling us with role-play scenarios, and lecturing on the importance of strict procedures. After a month of studying policy manuals and simulating calls, we were scheduled to handle our first live calls on a Friday. Each trainee would answer real 911 lines, though our instructor and her assistant would supervise. We were nervous, unsure what to expect when the phone icons lit up. One by one, my classmates approached the single laptop connected to the dispatch system. The first few calls arrived with harsh static and strange background noise. There was no audible voice, and each time the line ended abruptly after a few attempts to communicate. Our instructor continued to emphasize that strange or anonymous calls were common, that we should remain calm and follow the script. Soon, however, a discernible cry emerged through the static. Another trainee encountered a woman's faint pleas for help, followed by the same sudden disconnection. There was confusion and unease in the classroom, yet we were reminded that prank calls were typical. The repeated number and recurring static persisted, but no official explanation was given. The tension grew as more trainees experienced the same muffled voices and frantic sounds over the line. Eventually, it became my turn to answer. Despite my best attempt at composure, I was overwhelmed by the static, the urgent footsteps echoing in the background, and the voices of multiple people crying out in pain. Several distinct screams and sobs overlapped as though an entire group was in danger. Their pleas for assistance grew increasingly desperate, clashing with the harsh white noise. In my panic, my hand slipped on the touchpad, ending the call prematurely. I was admonished for hanging up on what we were told was likely another staged scenario. The instructor and her assistant maintained that these unsettling calls were part of training intended to replicate worst-case scenarios. By then, every trainee was shaken, struggling to differentiate between reality and a fabricated exercise. Moments later, the instructor opened the classroom door. The hallway beyond was flooded with blood, spattered across walls and puddled on the floor. Lying in the midst of it was the supervisor from earlier, her body ravaged by vicious injuries. A cell phone was still clutched in her hand, the screen displaying a final dial to the 911 training line. It became instantly clear that she and the others on the dispatch floor had been trying, in real time, to call us for help. In a panic, we rushed into the main room of the 911 center. The sight was even more horrific. Bodies of dispatchers and call takers scattered among the cubicles, torn apart by some unknown force or attacker. Severed limbs, destroyed monitors, and pools of blood replaced the sterile environment that should have been under constant activity. Every computer screen displayed the same last call made to our training station, indicating their final desperate attempts at contact. They had reached out to the only people available, us, and we had mistaken their genuine pleas for a staged exercise. Shocked and terrified, the group of us realized that no amount of drills or memorized instructions could have prepared us for the gruesome reality we faced. The corridor of blood and the massacre in the dispatch center were no elaborate prank. While we trained in supposed safety, real lives had been lost just beyond our locked door. All the horrifying phone calls, laden with static and tortured voices, had been authentic cries for help that we dismissed. In the aftermath, it was impossible to ignore the crushing guilt. Every detail of that day, the puzzling static, the panicked footsteps, and the anguished screams, took on a macabre clarity. Each call had been genuine, a dire warning we failed to respond to in time. I had wanted a better life for my son and me, yet my first true day in this new career revealed a nightmare that would haunt me forever.